Anomalisa is an expertly crafted and reassuring piece of filmmaking which touches on issues of identity, intimacy, and the multitude of illnesses of the mind. The year is 2005. Michael Stone, David Thewlis, a motivational speaker and writer for human resources, is traveling to Cincinnati to hold a conference of human resource team leaders. However, within the first couple of minutes of the film, it is noticeable that there is something strange about Michael's perception of the city's inhabitants, namely that they are all the same person, they all have the same facial features and the same voice, whether they be male or female, adult or child. They are all voiced by Tom Noonan. So that is until he meets Lisa, Jennifer Jason Leigh, and then the rest of the movie is sort of Michael's sort of plight to fight against this seemingly mental illness to be with her. It's the second film directed by Charlie Kaufman, who is largely known for writing the scripts of films like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Being John Malkovich, among others, and also the director of my favourite film of all time, Synecdoche, New York. He's co-directing it with Duke Johnson. It's a skilled creator of art surrounding the use of stop-motion animation and puppetry, which the film uses brilliantly. So not only is Michael's illness easier to depict on screen because you can create all these different models of people with the same face, but Kaufman and Johnson present some of the most realistic human performances and human scenes and just human movements. This sort of amazing photorealism. It's unlike anything else I've ever seen on film. It's been almost 8 years since his directorial debut, but Anomalisa represents a more sort of grounded and static representation of issues and the pains that we all go through in our day-to-day life, to self-identify, to give purpose to our own lives, to give purpose to other people's lives, and to sort of this constant reciprocation and sort of the loss of identity via our interaction with other people. And I think it's a conceptual sort of refinement of that sort of idea that Synecdoche, New York went with, in that it's a contrast to sort of the protagonist struggles within Synecdoche, New York, where Caden Cotard, the protagonist of that film, played by Philip Seymour Hoffman, sort of tries his hardest to give purpose to other people's lives and thus loses sight of his own identity. Whereas Michael, throughout the film, is fighting against this sort of unstoppable force where identity and purpose seem to have no meaning, even though he has a clear identity in that he seems to be the only person with any sort of distinct features. Because he's the only one with them, it's devoid of all weight or any sort of defining counteraction. So while these confrontations of themes are conceptually complex throughout the script, in a similar way to some of the criticisms that I had about Tarantino's The Hateful Eight recently, the film plays out and is written more like it should be in a stage production. Now, unsurprisingly, Kaufman originally wrote it as a play. Almost the entire running time takes place in one hotel. However, I feel that this barely detracts, although slightly detracts from the film, as there is still some amazingly executed cinematography and complex puppet movements throughout. Overall, Kaufman has shown an advancement in maturity and a conceptual refinement which is unlike anything you're bound to see in a cinema in a long time. While I had some reservations with the film because I am so in love with Synecdoche, New York's complexities, while this is very simple, I found, myself slightly less passionate about its execution. I hope it shows promise for him to find a middle ground between these complexities, these simplicities, these maturities that he's shown throughout his two films so far. I hope that his next film will show a sort of middle ground between these two places. Complete with a haunting score, Anomalisa shows extreme promise for the future work of both the directors and also of independent and crowdsourced filmmaking, because it was largely funded by donations made via Kickstarter. This sort of filmmaking definitely needs to be supported wholeheartedly.